Hi everyone, and welcome to English 315, which is the introduction to professional writing. I'm Dr. Malone. It's nice to kind of meet you. And I'm just going to give you an overview of the course. Just so you know, all of the slides that I use in any of the online lectures should be available to you on Canvas. You just go to Course Slides, and it's in the Important Course Documents module. So this is what I'll do today in this short-ish video. I'm going to kind of explain the purpose of this course. You are likely an English major or someone involved in the English department in some way, a minor or a concentrator in some particular field related to English. Then I will talk to you about the way that this class is using generative AI, such as ChatGPT, Bard, Claude, etc. It's a lot different from what you may be used to in your other courses. I'll do an overview of the major assignments. We'll talk about the course flow, and then I'll let you know how you can get in touch with me if you need to discuss anything at any point in the semester. So let's start by helping you maybe get a little bit more excited for being in this course. So if I were you and I was you in the past, I wasn't an English major in my undergraduate experience. I was a philosophy major, which is even more potentially against a course like this. So I imagine a lot of you are professional writing majors, and so you don't need this pitch. You can fast forward to the next bit. But if you are someone who's concentrating in literature or creative writing, or if you're looking to go into the field of teaching English in the primary and secondary schools, you might be like, why do we need to do this? It's a waste of my time. It seems a little silly. I wanted to talk to you as someone who has been in your position. I was angry if anybody even began to suggest that I think about business or the real world whenever I was studying philosophy in undergraduate. But I'll give you a couple of reasons why I think it's a great idea to take this course really seriously and do the best you can in it. First, it really asks you to shift your perspective on the concept of your writing style. So the style of writing you cultivate as a literary writer, or a writer of academic text about literature, or as a creative writer, is not, it's a little bit more all over the place. And I think that's partly why a lot of us like writing about literature, is that we get to just go on and use all of our nuanced language to get at the truth of some issue. And if you're a creative writer, you're working on your tone and your style. But in this course, you really get down and dirty with, how do I make something clear, concise, readable for a general audience? How do I interrogate my own prose, my own written word, for making it pass the test of being comprehensible for a large audience? That's incredibly important for your success as a writer in many different contexts. Next, this is an opportunity to learn about some emerging technologies. I went all over the country this past summer as a representative for the English department in UAB to learn about the way generative AI is intersecting with higher education, with professional writing world. And so this department is on the cutting edge of figuring out how to integrate this tool into our curriculum. And so you guys are going to be the beneficiaries of kind of getting that for the first time. Also, you are going to start understanding the different shifting professional landscapes, and the way that not only Gen AI, but also just the sort of influences, the current trends in the world are affecting the kinds of employment opportunities you might have. You're going to be doing some research on this, some primary research, some secondary research, and so you'll get that advantage here. And all of this really just maximizes your options for employment. So I was, again, a philosophy major. Wild thing to be, by the way. I was a philosophy major in undergrad. I did a master's degree in philosophy, and then I did a PhD in rhetoric and composition. And along the way, I did some other sort of non-writing related work. But I did have the opportunity to work in a professional writing capacity. I helped a woman whose business was to write sustainability reports for the global fashion industry for places like Guess and Under Armour. And I worked with her for European company CNA. And the skills that I learned there and that I learned through my degree absolutely helped me succeed there. And that was a piecemeal kind of employment that helped me get to where I wanted to be. It was a valuable experience, and I was recommended specifically because of my experience in the writing world as a result of my degree. So the more you can, fill your quiver of skills with relevant professional skills, you're gonna be employable, you're gonna have the capacity to maybe fill in those gaps or land that job that you really, really want. So I did want to talk about the way that generative AI is changing the landscape of professional writing in particular. So I spoke to folks in the School of Business. I spoke to some professionals, including, as you saw or will see, that interview with Alex Broadhead, who is an alumna of the UAB Professional Writing Department. GenAI, or this generative AI, which is a kind of massive next word prediction app, essentially. So you type in a query, it's a chatbot style, and the app can spit out long or short or whatever kinds of writing you ask it to do. And there's a lot of caveats with that. However, before this piece of technology, here were our major objectives for this course: to understand the professional landscape of what it is that this discipline allows you to do in the real world. Second, to understand sort of the rhetorical, ethical issues involved in writing and information design. Definitely know basic characteristics of some professional documents you're going to be most likely expected to know and write whenever you get into a professional environment. And then lastly, understand the way that these are composed and go through this process. So in light of GenAI, these things are shifting. So the landscape is changing. What's expected, or what jobs are available already are changing. There is a new job, and it is called prompt engineer. So the prompts that you add in order to get that text that generative AI spits out, that is a skill that is becoming highly sought after as a result of GenAI. Definitely the ethics of this is shifting because of the way we're wondering about intellectual property, and we're thinking about how we want to share our work through this app that then gets sent out into the larger database of its information. Is that an ethical thing to do? How do we protect our own labor? How do we protect the labor of others? Now, the basic characteristics of genres of professional documents are largely stable. However, this part right here, developing an awareness for the composing process, that has almost entirely changed in the last 5, 6, 7 months. So especially when it comes to professional writing, if it's writing copy, if it's writing policy documents, if it's writing technical writing like instructions and manuals and this kinds of thing, the human labor of composing has shifted from the drafting element. You obviously had to draft and then revise and do all these things. However, now in many workplaces, the major work of a professional writer is to engineer a prompt that you then put into generative AI, and it gives you the basic document, and you start with that document that spits out, and you have a lot of work to do there. You need to contextualize the information there by adding sort of sensitive or private or particular data that maybe you've gathered. You have to check all of the facts, because if you don't know, these AI are prone to hallucinations, which is basically making things up or spitting out falsehoods. There's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of ways that we're going to talk about this in our class this semester. So part of my job is going to be to teach us, or to get us started thinking about, well, first off, how do we decide whether we should use GenAI or when and how at any given task? Then thinking about how to create the most reasonable prompts and the ones that get the most solid and well structured documents out of GenAI. We're going to talk about how we're going to contextualize, revise, and edit that output. And then we're going to have to create a larger and more intense process for checking for data truthfulness. So my policy on GenAI use is that it encourages the use of this on activities and assignments unless otherwise prohibited. And so I'm telling you where I'm prohibiting it. I do not want you to use this to compose the responses to your homework unless some of the instructions specifically say use GenAI to do this. So I want you, because it's not going to be helpful for you to outsource this kind of mental labor to AI until you understand how we're going to use the tool and until you know what you really want to get out of it. Also, there are reflections, or sorry, that should say analyses. Your major projects are going to ask you to use GenAI. So your project 1, 2, and 3, the actual first draft and final drafts, I would like you to use this tool, and I'll talk more about that as it gets closer. But you should never use the tool to compose the analyses of it, because that's where I want you to justify why this document is appropriate and excellent and effective for whatever purpose it is been created. And again, that's a mix of creation from this machine and also your own mind, and it's kind of merging those two. So just keep this in mind. If you just outsource all of this to AI, it's not possible to pass this class. There's a lot going on that's not going to allow you to succeed, and also it's not going to help you in the end. Also, every time you do use AI, I'm asking that you at the end of whatever it is, and there's some specific guidelines for this in the assignments that I'll show you, you need to include screenshots of the final prompts that you ended up using, and that needs to be clear to me that these are the prompts that you used, and we'll talk again more about that soon. And then you are basically saying, if you use GenAI to generate this, you must have read through all of it because you are responsible for what you turn in. So you need to make sure that it is not full of untruths and that it is sound and well done. And again, you're going to be documenting where you actually use or which prompts you use by taking screenshots of those prompts and including them as an appendix at the end of your project. So this is at the end of the project 1, for example. You're going to include an appendix of screenshots documenting your GenAI prompts. Now, I'm not requiring that you use GenAI for these projects. I'm encouraging you to do so. And the reason I'm doing that is because that's becoming an expectation in the professional environment. So here are the major projects. Your homework, if you can't tell, is what I value the most out of this course, especially an online course. You need to be engaging with that and doing the best you can on that work every week. So that's a huge percentage of your grade. Then we have 3 major projects. We have professional communication, where there's a scenario that you'll investigate and end up composing an email to a specific group or audience. We're going to go through a project of a little technical writing, where we're going to learn some principles of good writing for instructions, and you'll it should be interesting for you. I've geared it towards UAB specifically. And then the final is a professional landscape report. This is a very big undertaking, but I scaffold it pretty well. It requires that you do some primary research. So you'll be surveying your fellow students. You're going to be doing some secondary research. You're going to be creating infographics. So choosing some data to represent visually from your research, and you'll be publishing this as a web page. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts and components to this. So you will have gotten a lot of skills and experience under your belt to talk to employers about or to use in your professional life as you continue going through that. So just so you know, every major assignment has a draft and a final where I would like you to use AI if that is something that you feel ethically able to do. And then they will also have an analysis attached. Every single project has an analysis, and that's where I do not want you to use it. And I just want you to see that the analysis is becoming really important to your success as someone who's like understanding more and more every time you use the tool of generative AI of how you should be doing it. So this is for the first project. Your first draft is 25%. You have a peer review report. And those are the only things due on Wednesdays, by the way. Everything else is due on Sunday. I'll show you more about that in a minute. Your final draft is 25% and your analysis is 25%. Here's again, it's the same breakdown for project 2. For project 3, the only difference is that you do not have a peer review. So everything is, I think it's like 35, 35, 30 or something like that. This is what I already said. The analyses are so important. It's not just a quick little, I wrote a couple of sentences about why I did this. I actually want you maybe to spend, not really, don't spend more time on this, but I want you to spend equal time on the drafting and the analyses, or put equal importance on them for sure. So this is an example of what our first project's analysis looks like. So I began by writing a minimum word count. I was like 800 to 1,000 words. And then I said, you know what? I'm not going to give a word count. I'm asking you to be really thorough and specific. And you'll see that the rubric, which I will post, asks for thoroughness, specificity, and accuracy, so that when you analyze what you've done, you can demonstrate to me that even if you use GenAI, you take ownership of it because you have had your hands in it and your mind in it from moment one. Right? You are in the driver's seat of this document. You just happen to make use of this particular tool to help you do so. So I'm asking you to tell me about the research process, because the first project asks you to do some very specific research around banking concepts. Oh my God, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm making you think about banking. If I were 19, 20, 21 years old and someone asked me to think about banking, I might have felt like punching them in the face, because I was like, banking is evil. We shouldn't be banking. I'm different now. I've thought differently, and I respect you if this is what you think. But at least it will be a mental challenge. So you will have to do some research. I'm going to ask you about the drafting process. This is a huge part. How did you use GenAI? How did you compose the prompts? How did you modify the text that came out of it? Tell me in great detail. And if you didn't do that, tell me what you did instead. How did you change it? Then this is going to be very important. And this is going to use language from the lectures and the readings that I have you do. Explain what the structure is. Defend it in great detail. If GenAI spits something out and you're just saying that the structure of it was okay and you used it, and you didn't scrutinize it and change it for a way that might benefit your audience better, then that's not going to be acceptable. You're going to have to defend everything you do in these analyses. So you get a sense of what I'm really looking for you to do. I'm looking for you to be critically thinking about every choice you make as a composer, because that's going to get you to where you want to be as a writer. So now for the course flow. There are weekly modules available to you. So week 1, week 2, all the way through 15. And within those weekly modules, there are homework instruction pages. So you must go to that first, because it tells you in great detail what you need to do in order to get a good grade on that homework assignment. And it usually links to a homework discussion board, though I think I also include those in the modules. The homework is always due on Sunday night at midnight. But if you start on Friday at 3 p.m. and send me an email, I may not be able to get back to you. I mostly do not answer emails on the weekends. So if you have an issue, a problem, a concern, please let me know earlier in the week. I'm pretty good at responding to emails within a day, but Friday is a bad day to send them. So open up these modules and make sure you know what you need to do before the end of the week. The only time you're going to have to turn something in that's not on a Sunday is when you have some peer review, and that only happens twice during the semester. It will be linked in Canvas, so you'll see that the due date is coming up, but just be aware that the weeks that you turn in your first draft, the following Wednesday, you will need to turn in a peer review, because then the following Sunday is when you turn in a final. So you want to get your peer feedback by that Wednesday, so you'll have enough time to turn in a final on the following Sunday. Also make note that I'm going to be offering individual meetings on the week of November 6th through 12th, and I highly suggest that you take me up on this. There'll be basically 10-minute meetings. This will be in preparation for your first draft of that final project. I imagine you'll have some questions, you'll want to get some feedback before you turn in that final draft or as you're finishing up the major elements of it. So be on the lookout for an email from me with the dates for signing up for those meetings. And here are just some of the major dates, and you can go back to this again. This slideshow is on Canvas. So the first drafts stuff aren't really due till the end of September. You can look at what the project entails. You can start working on it, but I don't recommend that you do that because you won't get to the lecture that really talks about some of the writing styles and some of the rhetorical techniques that we employ as professional writers in the communications that you'll be writing for Project 1. But you can go ahead and take a look at it and start thinking. The first draft for Project 2 isn't due till October 15th. Again, remember these are Wednesdays, peer review on the 27th and 18th, September and October. And then the final is here. And then you have a little while, you have quite a bit before you turn in your first draft for Project 3, because we're doing a lot of work in the interim to get you ready for that. And then your final is due on the 3rd, which is the end of that. And you do not have a final exam. So this is it. You'll be finished at the very end of the semester. So finally, I would love to talk to you. I'm so sad that we can't be together in a classroom at this weird seismic moment in the world of writing at large. I know that a lot of you are probably happy that this is an online course. You don't have to come to and from campus, but I am devastated. I would love to be able to talk to you. So please, at any moment, come to my office. I have office hours available for your class on Wednesdays from 1 to 2. I'm on the 5th floor of University Hall, kind of on the corner at the very end of a hall on the opposite side of the elevators. Please feel free to email me to have a Zoom meeting. I would love to chat about really anything, and I'm happy to get started in this kind of strange new writing environment. So happy writing and happy August.